Hello and welcome to the southern west tip of the Gower Peninsula in South Wales.
It's the height of the British summer, and if you could only see your hand in front of your face, the view would be utterly beautiful.
But it's raining cats and dogs and blowing a gale which is threatening to sweep our artists and their pods into the Bristol Channel, so they'll need to be made of tough stuff.
And they'd better do the view justice.
Because this place was the first to be designated an area of outstanding natural beauty back in 1956.
Of course, I was born in 1957, so then all bets were off. Anyway, welcome to Sky Arts Landscape Artist of the Year. The British Isles is full of stunning views in any weather. And throughout the series, we've journeyed to find the most challenging and picturesque for our 48 heat artists to paint.
It is a smashing view, yeah. I've got so much to choose from.
Today, we're welcoming 8 brand new artists to the soggy Worm's Head.
What are you working in today?
Watercolour.
Perfect day for it.
The watercolour.
Half of them are professionals. Andy Sargent, Ruth Larkin, Laura Fishman, and Emily Fong.
I love the British weather. I did have a painting day in preparation in the rain, so I feel like I'm totally prepared.
As well as our quartet of pros, we have 4 amateurs. Andrew Hopkins, Dave Wright, Jim Hanlon, and Tom Voice.
The weather isn't ideal, but I think you have to adapt to the conditions. I'm hopeful.
The artists will have a keen eye kept on them by our trio of sodden judges. Art historian Kate Bryan, independent curator Kathleen Soriano, and award-winning artist Taishan Schurenberg.
I can't see a bloody thing.
The prize our artists are vying for is a £10,000 commission to paint the panorama from Firefly, the Jamaican home of the celebrated playwright and artist Noel Coward.
Today, the weather may be miserable, but are we downhearted? How could we be when we're buoyed up by the spirit of 50 wildcard artists who've braved the worst the British summer can throw at us and are here determined to paint?
So you're letting the weather drip all over it.
They'll be up against the wind and rain to compete for just one spot in the semi-final.
You've done 2.
The first one washed away.
So who will make it through the wettest heat to the next stage of Landscape Artist of the Year?
I like my painting to look like it's been sneezed on.
So it's not completely cooked in your mind?
It might not be.
Is it al dente?
It could be.
One thing these islands are famous for is the great British weather.
It's a bit cold, isn't it?
And it seems the artists will be getting the brunt of it today.
I've changed my socks. They got a bit wet.
Not worried about the weather. I think it's going to enhance the occasion, and I think you feed off that.
As the pods are secured against the rain, our artists get ready for the challenge to begin.
It's just so much stuff.
And the judges get to see the artists' submission paintings up close for the first time.
Noble judges, the wall, an indication of what lies ahead for the day.
What's beautiful are these autumnal colours, and nothing is described in this, but actually you get a sense of the light and this time of year. I think it's fantastic.
It's a very contemporary palette, the use of those sort of peaches and the purples. You know, they've used just really those 2 or 3 colours really effectively.
There's a very interesting idea. It's using graphite throughout the whole thing, but in its very different forms.
It's very evocative. It's got a real mood and a real place, and I think they've managed to make it not corny.
It's always a surprise when pictures turn up this tiny.
I'm really pleased that it's that small, because the thing that I really liked about this submission was how much it packed a punch. You know, it's quite graphic, but then at the same time it's really soft. I mean, I just think this is such a fantastic submission.
I find this combination of beautiful and horrible fascinating, and these are very beautiful.
I think what we liked about this one was the naivety of it. With watercolour, there's an awful lot of soaking into the paper and mixing of the colours, and they've kept it quite simple here. I mean, it is inventive, and, you know, it's fun. It's a really fun piece.
It's pretty traditional, the idea of putting down paint in this way. There's definitely someone that I think will be delivering a quick, fresh painting.
And finally, somehow it matches today's weather a good deal more than the others.
It's incredible. There's nothing there, and yet there's so much there. It's just about mood and looking through atmosphere. What also makes it work are those little lights. You know, because we've got only one colour here, it lives off those little sparks. I think it's a very nice and understated piece. They're going to have a great time today.
Here on the Gower Peninsula in South Wales, our 8 artists will be painting a view on change for thousands of years.
Often battered by wind and rain, the worm's head jets out to sea like a creature trying to swim off into the open water.
Today is interesting because we've set them really a skyscape challenge. There is so much sky here compared to this small landmass. It's very unpredictable as well. You have to be able to go with the weather. And the weather is a character today. It's cold, it's rainy, it's windy, and we want to see that in the painting.
It is a smashing view, yeah. I've got so much to choose from. There's so many distances, there's different markers going way out. I'm just going to get started now.
Are you freezing or is it nerves?
Artists, I hope you're inspired by the landscape, possibly even the weather, because your challenge is about to begin.
You have 4 hours to complete your landscapes, and your time starts now. As the artists get started, their main challenge will be to use the adverse weather to enhance rather than to ruin their individual techniques.
The weather is challenging, but I'm going to embrace it. I'm trying to block in some of the sky with some washes and drips and spray it, capture the drama.
Born in America, professional artist Laura Fishman moved to the UK 20 years ago. She's inspired by the New York abstract expressionism that surrounded her as she was growing up. Her submission of a misty January morning in London nods to this style.
Laura, what we loved about your submission were those absolutely spectacular colours.
Yes.
And I'm curious, are you going to stick a bit closer to what you've got in front of you? Your starting ground, it seems relatively natural so far.
I am, because it's a different day, it's a different environment and different weather. When I painted that, I had the luxury of time.
Yeah.
So I was able to work in the studio and I was able to think about it. So
Yeah.
it's very different here. And there's only 4 hours, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Laura and the others might not relish the thought of doing one piece in the 4-hour time limit.
Usually there's a lot of procrastination. Today I have to focus in, get it done in the 4 hours.
But for Tom, 4 hours are plenty.
I tend to work on more than one at once. Having the time to actually focus on 4 paintings over a period of hours is actually quite nice.
Tom Voice is a recently qualified art teacher from Burton-upon-Trent. His submission was one of a series inspired by photographs of the Bay of San Francisco in California. Similarly today, Tom plans to create a series of paintings before deciding on one for the judges to consider. Tom.
Hello.
You know you can only submit one.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know.
I don't need to build your hopes up.
No.
Are these studies for your final?
Yeah, so they all have a kind of relationship. One thing that might work on another, I might bring it into the others, and that's the aim of it, really.
So you'll find a favourite?
Yeah, so that isn't currently a favourite. I'm going to try and save it, but if it goes, it goes.
OK, well, I'm particularly excited to see what size we end up with.
Yeah, so
What's
am I,
winning at the moment, would you say?
I don't know. I mean,
Forget that, Lou.
Yeah, I think that's gone. One of these two, I think, but maybe that. I don't know. It's early days.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
And watch it doesn't all get washed away.
Yeah, I know.
I quite like painting misty scenes like this. Used to this back in Ireland, so should be no bother.
Andrew Hopkins has crossed the Irish Sea to Wales for today's heat. He's an amateur artist who's been inspired by his travels around the world. Today's weather suits his painting style, as seen in his submission of a foggy evening in his hometown of Wicklow.
Andrew, it's all blues, and so was your submission, and so are you.
This is still the undercoat. I'm going to go back and pick out some of the greens and some of the browns.
You brought 2 canvases here. Why?
It's quite wide. I like that rock, and obviously that's the main piece over there. I couldn't fit them both in, so I've decided to do a diptych.
So that was in the last minute?
Yeah.
It's full of adventure.
Oh, thank you very much.
Full of adventure, which is great.
Most of the canvases are filling up with paint. But one artist is only now picking up brushes after spending almost 50 minutes sketching.
I'm going quite slowly with it because the landscape's changing a lot. I think the key is to be really patient, not to attempt to grab it all at once, because if you do, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Originally from Australia, Emily Fong is a professional artist. She first trained as an architect, but preferred the faster creative process and vibrant colours of the artistic world. Her submission of a local field in Fife during the harvest season demonstrates this love.
Emily, we loved your watercolour submissions. I'm quite surprised to see you're not working with watercolour today.
I'm not. I've brought my gear with me, but I think it's just a bit more of a pleasure to be working in oil.
Is it a medium that you work with an awful lot?
Much less familiar than watercolour.
Experimenting on camera?
Yeah.
Always exciting.
Yeah, why not?
So you like that bit of the challenge?
I do. I like to take some risks.
So if you put your watercolour next to your finished oil painting, would it be obvious that it's the same artist we're looking at? Because we're always looking for consistency, but at the same time we want surprises. So can you deliver both of those things?
I hope so.
Great, okay, fantastic.
I'm going to try.
You're on a timer.
While our 8 artists are in the shelter of their pods, our 50 wildcards will be battling against the elements with little protection.
It might be too windy. Should we find out? If it goes off in that direction, it's too windy.
It's going to be interesting. I've never painted in the rain before, so first time for everything.
They'll be painting a view of Rosilly Beach if they can just get their canvases to stay put.
Trying to make sure nothing blows over. It could be a complete disaster. I'm working with watercolour.
Watercolours come into their own. Oh my goodness, you're letting the weather drip all over it.
I've added to it, I suppose, but I'll just continue to work the drips into the direction I want it to go in.
That's great.
They are all hoping to be spotted by the judges for just one wildcard place at the semi-final.
I've got to do it. I can't see everything.
I'm going to have to make up the hill because I don't want to draw mist in it.
Hello.
How are you?
Are you part of our TV crew, or are you with this lady?
I think I'm part of the umbrella.
It's my husband.
This is not your job for the whole day holding the umbrella.
Yeah,
I think it is.
That is lovely. So literally, he's giving you support.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bring yourself out.
Keep up the good work. An hour in, and the relative shelter of the pods isn't quite enough to keep our artists' work dry.
I'm having a few issues with the rain. Everything's drying slower. So where I may have put many layers of drips, I'm using less because they keep falling off the painting.
The sky just completely changed. You can kind of see what I had going on, but I might have to change it up again, I think. Just have to keep going and see, yeah.
Where am I up to my painting? I don't really know. I don't really know. I don't really have a plan and I'm chasing it as it goes.
I think this one's probably at the forefront at the minute. We'll see. I'm going to try and bring some things that are working with this into here, see what happens. I'm really enjoying it. I thought I'd struggle more than I have done, but there's still time to struggle.
Welcome back to the Worm's Head on the South Wales coast. We've been blighted by relentless rain and wind for our first hour, but we're battling through with a spirit worthy of the Welsh dragon.
Wind primarily is my main concern because I use graphite powder, which by nature of the word powder tends to blow around. Now we start to spray, and this has got an additive in that helps fix the graphite, and then turn the paper upside down so that all that falls off and you're left with a really stormy sky.
Amateur artist Dave Wright lives in Cornwall. His submission is of the local crown mines at Batalic. He uses etchings and robbings, often from the physical landscape in his work. You do robbings, don't you, as well?
Yeah, I actually work in the tiles and bathroom industry. I'm only an amateur artist.
Yes.
And the texture of this, if you put it underneath the paper, can give you a ripple effect on the sea. And the plan, if it dries out a bit, is for some of the foreground areas to do some rubbings off the stones on the wall. So you've actually rubbed from the place you've drawn.
You're not planning on anything too cliffside?
No.
No. I mean, it would be great television, but only for about 4 seconds before you fell off. Well, have fun today. Enjoy, well, it's a night on the tiles in many ways for you.
Too right.
Lovely.
And Dave's not the only artist who's incorporating materials from home to use in their work today. Ruth's put up a gallery to help inspire her.
I have reference pieces that I brought with me because there's the motifs that I generally work with. I'm going to use this map of where I'm staying, which is going to look like this microscopic picture of my skin in the bottom half of the painting and the worm's head on the top half.
Professional artist Ruth Larkin has been living with cancer for 7 years. She frequently references her illness in her work, as demonstrated in her submission. Here, the stillness of ordinary daily life, the seascape, is contrasted by explosions, which represent setbacks in her condition.
Ruth, I wouldn't raise it except that it is such an important component of your art. But your illness, your cancer, has completely infused your art, hasn't it? Yeah. Can you tell me how that came about?
So you always get a copy of your scans and they do look like maps and bits of landscape. And I said to myself, well, there's something in this. So I started keeping an illustrated diary of having treatment.
And what about the landscape ahead of you?
Now, not that I'm a misery guts, but I've gotten into this kind of colour set. So this is great weather for me.
But not everyone is as happy as Ruth with the ongoing damp day.
The weather, it's just saturating the paper, so I have to keep drying it with a hairdryer at the moment to keep it dry because it keeps getting damp on me.
I think the biggest challenge at the minute is the horizon lines. It changes so quickly as a result, these are changing.
So we've had a lot of artists talking about the difficulties of painting in wind and rain. But as far as creating this scene, what are the pitfalls on a day like this with mist and all
where everything's the same colour, you mean? Yeah, that is quite difficult. And what's been interesting is watching the view go in and out of focus. At one point, the Worm's Head Island actually sort of got lost in the cloud. So it's interesting for our artists to decide at what times of the day they're going to choose which parts to use. You know what I mean?
So do you think it's going to change much as the day goes by?
Well, that island, I could hardly see it half an hour ago, and it's back in focus, and the greens are visible. You know, half an hour it was grey.
You see, Worm's Head, I understand that it's called that it's a reference to a sort of sea serpent. Yeah. And it looks like that, with the tail disappearing out. To me, this seems the right setting for a sea serpent, mist.
Yes, I mean, it's made for a wonderful painting. So when we see the paintings, we want to have something really powerful.
With the double drama of the weather and the vastness of the landscape, some artists are having to adapt their compositions.
It seems to me that you've put that landmass closer to the cliffs than it actually is.
Yeah, if this was completely measured up, as is out there, I would have lost this, and I needed to pull that in and redesign it a little bit,
Professional artist Andy Sargent has a love of the outdoors. He got inspiration for his submission on a trout fishing trip to Pitsford Reservoir in Northamptonshire.
You've introduced all these colours. What's the plan here?
You've actually hit me while I'm putting strong tones in. About an hour's time, some of this will be then rendered back down again. My paintings are an immediate response to what's been slapped in front of me.
But what if it keeps on changing like it does here?
Fine. I can bang in elements of that If it changes, I'll change with it.
Fantastic.
As Andy tries to include everything in his picture, another artist is trying to focus down on just one aspect.
I've kind of zoomed in on this really interesting view of overlapping cliffs. You've got to find something in a subject that shouts at you, paint me, and I've found what I like.
Jim Hanlon is a professional artist from Surrey. He often travels to paint, as in his submission which he completed in just half an hour during a trip to Spain.
I would think. That's part of the process. I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far. And I'm looking at tones and subtleties and refinements. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a great time. I'm just so lucky I'm not a wild card.
Along the peninsula, the rain is still battering down and the wind isn't letting up either. But short of an actual government-issued weather warning, our troop of valiant artists are marching along.
The wildcards today are just incredible. I mean, you know, we've had difficult rainy weather before, but we've never had it on the side of a cliff. The wind's coming in and all of them are really embracing it. Of course, it's having an impact on their work because they're trying to do 3 or 4 things at the same time. They're trying to paint, they're trying to hold their umbrellas down. But, you know, my God, it's just so impressive, really.
Indeed, the Wildcards are showing a great British resolve, as seen by many a famous artist.
You're bareheaded.
If it's good enough for Turner, it's good enough for me.
Well, Turner painted, God knows, in all kinds of weather.
Exactly, he liked to tie himself to
So
a mast on the ship and crack away, didn't he? So,
He did, in honour of Turner.
Absolutely, yeah.
You strike me as a man like myself. When someone says you're going to the seaside, you think, I know what I'll wear.
Footy shorts.
Yeah, I'll get me
Actually, they are
flip-flops.
swimming trunks.
That's very, very apt. You're not going to be put off by the weather?
No.
I look forward to seeing it later, when most of it will be on the grass.
We're almost halfway through. Back in the relative protection of the pods, our artists are trying to keep up with changes in the view, courtesy of Mother Nature.
The light keeps changing, so what was a dark now becomes a sort of mid-tone, so I'm fighting with it at the moment. It's very much a battle when I'm painting. I'll get somewhere with it, I think, by the end of the play.
The colour of the sea now has changed and it's a bit deeper. And I'm thinking maybe I'll bring the sea in and bringing it right down. I don't know, it's just blind terror. Just hopefully it'll work out for me.
I think I might be halfway through my painting. I'm going quite slowly, so it's really helping that people are coming by and giving us a bit of a time check because I'm not really looking at my watch.
The sky didn't particularly come out as I wanted it, but once the cliffs have gone in, that will hopefully set the rest back anyway. Only time will tell with that. It's just a question of putting those bits in.
Jeez, I wasn't happy with it at all, but I added some pinky grey in, and it's just freshened it up, so I'm actually so relieved. Just have to keep going and see.
It's a splatter brush. I like my painting to look like it's been sneezed on.
I'm getting through it, and hopefully by the end I'll have something to show for it. I think the only thing that's going to trip me up is not selecting one and refining it. I think I'll make the decision. I don't know. That's a great. I don't know. That's a hard question.
It's rainy, damp and blustery, but we're cracking on with the competition.
I just put you in my picture.
Less than 2 hours remain and the artists are making progress with their work.
So there's an old tile there, and then by either rubbing it hard or doing marks, you can actually give the effect of ripples going across the sea.
The judges have been keeping a watchful eye on the soggy proceedings so far. How do they think the artists are getting on? OK, we're halfway. So, Emily?
Emily is using a medium that she doesn't use very often, And I sort of feel that you get a sense of that in the way she's working. It feels very slow.
But she's found colours in a quite grey palette of today, and I think it's promising in a quiet way.
Andrew?
I mean, today is a gift for Andrew because he does these very atmospheric, broody scenes. But I do think he's got to start basically turning the volume up.
So, Tom, pick a painting and talk about it.
I mean, I like the fact that he's trying a lot out in different sizes, and I think he's right. One will grab his attention more, and I think he'll run with it.
Yeah, he's a fascinating artist because he puts all these things down, lets them play around, puts something else down, and lets that painting be a contrast to the other one. And he's now surveying them and saying, where's the magic? And I'm going to go in for that one. And I think that's such an unusual process. I like it.
So, Jim?
He's given us this fantastic snapshot of the cliffside, which I'm so glad that one of them sort of zoomed into.
Yeah, Jim seems very comfortable and uncomplicated, but I'm looking for not a refinement, but some subtlety.
What about Dave?
Dave's revelling in the landscape. I know he wants to get out there and start taking rubbings of the wall. So he's really giving us a sense of place in its physicality and the way he's making the work as well.
I think it's a really, really interesting piece. So, let's give me a sense of the place. It might be an idea, just for a foreground feel, really. You can put something across here to give the impression of grass and an edge. And then you could even literally just explore the line, and then you just work with it. And that would fit quite nicely at the front of the picture.
Back in the pods, and Tom is starting to make some decisions.
I've got rid of the little one. I was going to get rid of this one, but I've just decided to give it one last chance and see what I can do.
With Tom trying to get rid of paintings, Jim's decided to add another one in. Don't look now, but there's another painting.
There is.
In the pod.
Behind you.
So this was, let's call this Jim 1.
Jim 1, yeah.
And that's Jim 2.
Yeah, not the cliffs this time, but the actual Worm's Head.
Is there something you didn't like about Jim 1?
So, I love it, but you've got to know when to stop, otherwise you overcook it.
Yeah.
And part of the reflective process is that you get away from it, concentrate on something else, and then go back and have a look.
So you might come back. So it's not completely cooked in your mind?
It might not be.
Is it al dente?
It could be.
With the cool temperature today, the artist certainly won't be feeling overcooked. But in warmer weather, the remarkable headland attracts visitors from all over. Brave adventurers often come here keen to make the trek across the jagged causeway to the head itself. But visitors only have a brief window to complete the journey before the tide rises and makes Worm's Head an island once more. One frequent visitor to Worm's Head was the poet Dylan Thomas. Growing up in nearby Swansea, he enjoyed regular camping trips on this stretch of coast as a boy. As an adult, he was still drawn to the place.
Dylan was essentially a town boy, and I think the contrast, the silence, the peace, the seabirds, the waves, spoke to him as a poet.
Dylan Thomas often spoke of one particularly memorable trip to Worm's Head. Legend has it that he wandered over to the headland one spring afternoon and fell asleep while reading. When he woke, the tide was in, leaving him marooned on the island from dusk to midnight. His night on Worm's Head became the subject of one of his short stories. He wrote, "We stood on the end of the head and looked down, though both of us could have said without looking, 'The sea is in.' The sea was in. The slipping stepping stones were gone. On the mainland in the dusk, some little figures were beckoning to us, 7 clear figures jumping and calling."
He did love to talk about his night alone on the Worm. He was very fond of that tremendously remote point. It does look as though you're at the end of the world, and Dylan liked that, I think.
The Wildcards are almost done. They've braved all weathers and the judges will choose one of them for a potential place in the semi-final.
Amazing, you've done 2.
The first one washed away.
Just adjusting the composition. I didn't like this 2 inches just here, so I'm just cutting the end off.
So who might make it through?
My goodness, they are just so impressive. Being
They're
out there all
heroes.
day.
They're art heroes.
Great sense of humour. They just the whole situation is crazy, but they're really committed to doing their paintings.
Yeah.
One of my favourites is actually a watercolourist. She's at the front. She's found a beautiful sort of rust colour to
Oh,
knock
that's
in.
lovely.
I agree, that is just a gorgeous piece.
But I also really like the big square canvas. That is a really solid bit of painting.
She's really captured the mood, I think, better than anyone.
So between those two?
Yeah.
Okay. Congratulations! It's just the colours are just stunning, and that dappled effect from the sea. I don't know how you did it. I know. No, well done.
Lindsay Cole from Hampshire will join the 5 other wildcard winners competing for that one place in the semi-final.
I came here with the sole intention of just having complete fun, which I did have, and I've come out as a wildcard winner, which is lovely.
Well done to all of today's wildcards. They've endured the awful weather and deserve a special standing ovation. On behalf of a nation of art lovers, those who head outdoors with an easel come rain or shine, we salute you.
Unlike the rain, the challenge must stop, and there are just 30 minutes left before brushes must be put down.
Once I feel happy with this painting, I'll take a step back and then have a look at both paintings together, see if I want to make any changes, just get some perspective.
I need to select between these two. With this, the intention is to focus on a large sky. With this one, there's more of a focus on the foreground. So again, I'm trying to realise which one I prefer. I keep changing my mind. It's driving me mad.
What are you doing?
Now.
Yes, now. So not generally in life. What are you doing now?
Titivating, really. Just
Titivating,
trying
I
to
like that word.
pull out some darks on the sea to make the sky sit back a bit more. I am mostly feeling good with it. I'm really enjoying the colours, but it's quite light for the scene that I'm looking at, so I'll add a bit of tone and potentially darkness.
Just have to figure out what it needs. I think it really is just the rock face in the bottom, so that'll be the next step. Needs more work. Needs more work.
We're in the final moments of a very blustery and soggy artistic challenge on the south coast of Wales. It's now or never if the artists are going to finish on time.
It's quite easy to feel under pressure to finish it and make rash decisions, so this last bit of timing is pretty important.
I've got to just make one or two more decisions on how I'm going to tackle certain things, and then it should hopefully knit it all together.
I have a couple of bits to do to kind of pull it out so it looks a bit more defined.
A few more bits to do in the foreground. I'm trying to make it look uniform, consistent. I'm exhausted, but it's a good exhausted.
I don't want to overdo this. It's looking nice, but like maybe just a few little more to kind of bind it all up, tie it together.
While most of the artists are making the most of every second, for two there's still big decisions to make.
I think the one of the cliffs is the most interesting. It kind of tells me that my first instinct was right.
But for Tom, the choice isn't so straightforward.
You know what we're going to ask you. There were 2 paintings sitting there, and we're only expecting 1.
I think I'm coming towards a decision now, he says as he changes his mind again.
And the marks are very fresh and lively. How does one finish a painting like this?
I need to make sure that I'm keeping that energy whilst not refining too much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All you have to do is choose the right painting.
Yeah, I know.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left.
Nearly finished. It's just like making sure that I'm just celebrating the moments that are really working and working with them really gently.
I'm pretty much there now. I'm starting to fiddle and faff. That's the hardest bit, is knowing when to just put the paintbrush down and walk away.
I'm reasonably happy with it overall. A lot of tidying up to do.
Stop there. I think I've made my decision.
It's all there. Some parts are better than others. I'm happy with it.
Artists, your time is up.
Please put down your brushes and step away from your work.
Congratulations, you did it.
Yeah. Okay, did you finish?
Oh, no. Did you?
I think so.
Good job. Nice work.
They've done everything they can. It's now up to the judges to decide what they make of the paintings and choose 3 to shortlist.
He likes to sort of work as the day develops, as the weather develops and as the light develops. Unfortunately for me, it's slightly too garish, although there is a lot of movement, and I do like that sort of rolling sea.
Emily produced something today that has got a lightness to it, but in its minimalism, it works very well.
I love the colours, and I like the fact that when you get up really close, you can go very abstract, but still have some kind of descriptive value when you stand back. I think it's an intriguing painting.
Dave was having a good time today, I think. He really enjoyed himself.
There are some really interesting things that he's doing, playing around with the stones and the rubbings that he does, but there's so much diversity of style in there, he's almost trying to do too much.
I think Tom made the right choice with the work that he gave us.
I just like the way he puts paint on. We often hear that artists have problems putting in paint where there's not much going on, and he's put that in an interesting way.
It's sort of free and loose.
That is a fabulous sky.
But there's something happening in the foreground. It just doesn't sit comfortably.
There's so many good elements in it, though.
I'm really pleased that Andrew decided to choose this landscape format and to deliver some of the moody, atmospheric quality of his submission. I mean, if you look at the right-hand side where that light is coming through the sky, it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know that he's handled the land as well.
It's kind of interesting how she's talking earlier in the day about the body being a landscape. And it's like an umbilical cord. She uses this to connect with a distant landscape. And it's got something very personal and tender about it.
I mean, this sort of work is something that we're really familiar with. We see a lot of these sorts of artists, but my goodness, it's so powerful. He's got those shadows, that cragginess, he's given it real character.
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent composition choice, and he really went to town on the rock face. I mean, that's the star of the show.
Just 1 can be selected for the next stage of the competition. So who will our 3 shortlisted artists be?
This looks great.
That looks fantastic.
I could find 3 here, easily. They rise up. They stand out for me quite strongly.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Artists, it's been a wonderful, though very wet day, but what's been a pleasure is watching you respond to the weather and create such wonderful work.
I'm afraid only 3 of you can go through, and the judges have selected their shortlist. The first artist on that shortlist is Emily Fong.
The second artist is Tom Voice.
And the third and final artist is Jim Hanlon.
Commiserations to the rest of you. It doesn't mean that we haven't really enjoyed watching you work. Thank you.
Yeah, even though I didn't make it, the whole experience has still been very worthwhile and tiring, but very enjoyable.
It's time to make a decision, and the judges take into account both today's paintings and the artist's original submissions.
Well, judges, it's been a rum old day. How do you think the artists have responded?
Very well. I think we've got 3 really good finalists today.
So, Emily.
Considering we picked her for her light touch and her watercolour, I think she produced something today that has got a similar lightness to it. And the marks are very few, but when she puts them on, they are the right tone and right colour and give us the reflection of the island and the water and the light of the day.
It's actually quite hard to capture this white grey light that we've had today, and I think she's done that really well.
Now, Tom, in fact, created about 4 different boards. Was he right for this one?
I'm really pleased that he gave us this one because I think he's an artist who looks a lot at how paint goes down. A lot of people use paint for its texture and to actually have quite a bit of paint. And what he notices and observes quite carefully is where the paint is lacking, where the brush marks are sort of scraping onto the board. This one had the best passages of sparse paint.
It's not quite as perfect as the submission, but I think overall, he just makes these very sort of jewel-like works.
Finally, it's Jim. Can I ask, I know you guys have said in the past that it's not just about representing what we see, it's about capturing the feeling of the day. Every conversation I've had today has been about the weather. Is it OK for him to turn up with his own microclimate?
I know what you mean. Jim didn't get the weather today, but he got the geological rightness. So he picked one element that wasn't obvious to the rest of us.
He uses those fantastic rock faces as a springboard, and you're really swept away through the painting. And actually, what he's done today does have some really beautiful passages of paint.
So you don't have to pick your favourite painting today, you can just pick your favourite weather.
Yeah.
Emily, Tom, Jim, this is the moment when we have to say goodbye to 2 of you because only one can go forward, and the judges have decided.
Yes, the artist that they have selected is Tom Voice.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you next round. Really loved it. Fantastic. I'm over the moon. The competition was really strong. I'm just overwhelmed, and I'm really looking forward to the semi-final. It'll be another challenge. It'll be a different place. It'll be a different weather, hopefully, and can't wait.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to see what happens next.
Yeah, I'm really,
What we loved about Tom's work was this very unusual approach. He's painting lots and lots of different things. He wants to keep them all fresh. He doesn't want to put too much paint down. For him, it's all about less being more. He's really one to watch for me.